Good morning, everybody. It's the 5th of October, 2023. Of course, I'm in Minsk. I got off at Akademia Nauk, which is Academy of Science. And here is a movie theater. It says up on the top, Octavria. And that's a Kinotheater. It's a kino, like movie, same as in German. And next to that, there's a KFC over there. And look, well, I don't know if you can see with the lighting, but that's the Academy of Sciences over there. And I'll get into some news, but I just thought I would show you around where I take classes now. Just starting a couple of days ago. That's the Belarusian Technical University. Not testicle, I didn't say testicle. I said the Technical University. And yeah, some crazy news anyway, but well, I'll just shut this off for a minute, and it's just right down here, but I don't want to bore you with stuff when I don't get into the news just yet. And I'll just kind of show you where I do this, take classes. Okay, right here is Общежитие. That's normally, I don't know if it's still used that way. And there's Internat, Belaruski Technical University. So, and actually that's where students live. That's Общежитие, I believe. So this is part of the university, and it's connected right over here. I'll show you where I enter. It's right over here. People from all over, of course. That's looks like somebody from Kazakhstan, and here's a young lady from China, and who knows that? Oh, military. Planting a mine. Surveyor. She doesn't look like much of a surveyor to me. Not really dressed properly. Anyway, building sciences. There's all kinds of these things, and like I said, here's the main gate over here. I'll show that to you, and then I'll go inside. I don't know if I don't even want to ask if I'm allowed to film, so I'll just shut this camera off. Maybe I will film a little bit inside, but then, like I said, I'm not going to ask. There's a guard, as you see, right in front there. Oh, and here's the nice building in the back. Bronze Man. Okay, I guess that's about it. That's all I wanted to film anyway, but I'll get into the news in a little while. Okay. All right, now let's talk about some news here. Very interesting stuff going on. It's like the world is a clown world, I guess. Alex Cristoforo probably has to change everything and make everything be a clown world, and at the end of his videos he has to talk about what is the expectable news, I guess. But the first clown world is, well, I don't want to say that. I'm not going to copy Alex Cristoforo, but this is a very good one. The United States is calling for an immediate meeting of the United Nations Security Council. And the reason is, of course, the big part. Tractors right in the middle of Minsk. Loud tractors. Well, the reason is really funny. It's the collective West is very angry at Russia, saying that Russia is breaking international law because the West is unable to track Russian warplanes. And it's really funny. I have to actually read this because I wrote it down. I couldn't believe it. They're unable to track Russian warplanes. And well, on radar, they're invisible. The radar invisible, you know, like the F-35 is supposed to be, but it isn't. And then the U.S. has such a They say they're so advanced, and they brag, and I don't even know what the point of all the lies and the bragging is all about. The technology, they probably have certain good technologies, but a lot of it is just not what they say it is. So there's no claims from Latin America, no claims from Africa, no claims from the Middle East, no claims from China or most of the rest of the Orient about any kind of technology that Russia has. But you have the Russian representative to the United Nations, Vasily Nebenzia. Well, he's the permanent representative of the United Nations. He said, I'm not sure I completely grasp this, is what he said. He asked, why doesn't NATO make better radars? And this quote was saying, what do you want from us? Shall Russia give up its radio and electronic systems, or shall we fix your surveillance systems? In other words, is Russia supposed to give the United States and the rest of the world the technology on how to track the Russian planes? And then you have this deal going on. You know, you talk about, well, I'll get into that a little bit later too. It's like with the wife of Podolyak, about all the technology that the West has and uses against Russia, and then Russia has to adapt to this and create their own technologies. But the West doesn't believe that they have to adapt to any technologies that Russia uses, or the new technologies that the United States does not have a counter for. It's incredible. It's absolutely incredible. Actually, this corner is quite loud. I should probably go somewhere else. And I noticed, a lot of people are not wearing as warm of jackets as I do. Some are and some aren't. And the reason for this is because where I live, it seems to be much colder. It's like that in the summertime too, so that's good in the summer that we have it much cooler where I live. And but of course, in the winter it's not so good. It's probably going to be colder in the wintertime. It's colder right now, like I say, than it is here. This is warmer. Where I live, there's a lot of trees, so I guess that makes it cooler. So there was an article on Zero Hedge yesterday. I looked at it yesterday afternoon, and it's mostly about the World Economic Forum. They never cease to surprise, but I think a lot of the information that I was reading, it's all information that has already been put out, and maybe Zero Hedge is just trying to tell us that they haven't given up on this, the World Economic Forum. And it's the you will own nothing and be happy sort of a deal. And in that article they said there's no privacy, no property, and I'll add to that, and complete compliance. Well, that is the whole idea of everything. That you will be under complete compliance to whatever they want, even down to the point of what you think, what you believe. Well, let's walk in here, see what this is all about. But yeah, everything under complete control. Or else, that's the or else. They have these social credit scores and all this kind of fun stuff like that. Looks like that's a school up there too. I don't know. There's a lot of schools. All over the place is schools in Belarus. Probably more schools than any other building. See classroom chairs up there. Wow, look at that hammer and sickle on the capitals up there, if you see. Well, looks like they're doing some work here. Just walk around a little bit here. Собака. No, that's not from Star Wars. That's the word for dog in Russian. Собака. So, now, Zelensky was recently in New York with his wife. Now this is, like I said, this is all kind of like a clown world stuff you just can't believe. And I think George Galloway said this very well, but I was already kind of formulating this on my own before I saw his video. But it's like not counting clothing, just her going into Cartier jewelry shop, just one shop, one place. She spent $1.1 million US, at a time when Ukraine is crying and screaming that they need more money. And I don't know, why doesn't, and he wants, old Zelensky wants everybody to dig deep into their pockets and send him money. Well, why doesn't he dig a little bit deeper, he and his wife? And instead of sending all this, buying all this jewelry and clothing, I wonder how much she spent in clothing. Last time I heard she was in Paris, I believe it was like, I don't know, huge amount of money as well. Large sum. So, gosh, I wonder what it's going to take for them to move when they're going to have to move. Obviously, at some point in time, you're going to have a whole crew of people just to carry her jewelry and clothing out. How many boxes of clothing is? I wonder what she would have. She'd probably fill a van just of her clothing alone. Can you imagine somebody who spends like that? And all this clothing is worth tens of thousands of dollars for a dress or something, or a pair of shoes. It's like AOC. She had what, $2,000 pair of shoes, and then she's saying, I was a waitress, I'm just like everybody else. Mm-hmm. Yeah, right. And not to mention, the reason why we know about this is she did not like the tone of voice that the person serving her in Cartier was using. She didn't like the tone of voice, so she got that girl fired. I think it was probably Oriental. I think the name was an Oriental name. So this Oriental girl published the receipts online, so they know exactly how much. It's 1,100. I think it's no cents, just 1,100. They rounded it off. Probably gave her a good deal, huh? I mean, no. When I say 1,100,000, excuse me. That's a different world for me. I never talk about millions, so. And let's get to Germany now. Germany, really. I mean, the whole world, everything is going crazy. Germany now, the leader of the AfD, the Alternative for Deutschland party, apparently was attacked and very badly injured. So this guy's in the hospital. And there's also been death threats against the deputy leader of the party. What's her name? I can remember. Alice Vidal, I believe is her name. And so she is whisked off to Switzerland, her and her family. So that makes you really wonder. Maybe it's mission accomplished by whoever. And as I say, they're the second most powerful party actually in Germany. And at the meantime, you have Olaf Scholz. His approval rating, I guess, has dropped down to 15%. I've never ever heard of any leader of any country having an approval rating of 15%. Never heard of that. The lowest I've ever heard is like, I don't know, 30% or whatever. Incredible, 15%. Annalena Baerbock is even ahead of him, and she's far, far worse. I think her approval rating is 18%, for the Green Party. What a terrible government. That means, like George Galloway was saying also, that means they're gone in the next election. And I believe they have a midterm election, or whatever they call that in Germany, coming up. Some sort of an election where it's very possible. I don't know if they can be ousted out of power based on the result of the next coming up election. That's I went to school in Germany. I actually supposedly learned about the system, but it's all very complicated. Very difficult to cheat on elections in Germany because it's very complicated. It's not like the United States where they can cheat very, very easily, as well as other countries. But the U.S. system, it's incredibly easy to cheat on the votes. So, and that's why they do it. So, and apparently, I don't know, maybe because of this bad approval rating, not to mention the other facts, that I believe a tweet put out by Medvedev probably had a lot of influence. Remember, they were thinking about sending the Taurus long-range missile system to Ukraine, at the same time the U.S. is talking about ATACMS. And Medvedev was saying, okay, then it's not against international law if we bomb the factories in Germany that are making these long-range missiles. So, isn't that strange that just, in the last day or so, Olaf Scholz is saying, well, we have no plans to send the Taurus long-range missile to Ukraine. So, surprise, surprise. And then there's a quote from, anyway, this was, I have to say this was according to the Bild Zeitung. And in the past, the Bild Zeitung was never a reliable source of information. It was, I think, the Bild Zeitung at one point in time, I think on the cover, maybe it was just the covers. I think they probably had good news and they had some crazy news in there. Like once they showed some black and white photo of a World War II bomber supposedly on the moon. And then I think they had a title once, says daughter gives birth to mother. So, or maybe that was in a U.S. You know, they had, what was it, the National Enquirer or something like that in the United States. I don't even know if these things exist anymore. I don't know if they're legitimate. If they are, maybe they're just online. It's just a bunch of crazy stuff. Not necessarily true, probably not true most of the time. And Putin came out with a quote. He said, and I'll quote here, "The world is gradually ridding itself of the dictatorship of certain countries that try to drive the rest of us into economic servitude." Wow, wow, really well said. Really well said. And of course, as you know, how they do that is through something called fascism, which is, as I had said and other people say, and it's not from me, it's from Mussolini. He said fascism, and I say in so many videos, sorry to be repetitive, fascism is the marriage of corporate money to government power. At least that's the fascism as it was envisioned, and now they say it's something to do with your skin color and your race and stuff like that. I don't know. So there's a book by Aaron Rousseau, and I might have mentioned that. And, you know, he was on his deathbed. He was dying from cancer at that time, and I don't know, he might have written the book before he was diagnosed with terminal cancer, but he wrote but I don't think so. I think he actually came out and was mentioning these things because he had cancer. And it's called From Freedom to Fascism. And I have not read the book, but I just know about some of the things he's said in interviews before he died. So, and Aaron Rousseau, he was, a great entrepreneur. He, believe it or not, he even discovered, I believe, or made, I believe, Bette Midler, the singer. She was the one that sang that song in that honor of those people that died after 9/11 in that stadium. She sang that song, "Don't you know that you're my hero?" Everybody crying in the stadium, basically, and all that. And I don't know much about her, so I'm not going to say good or bad, but I'm just telling you who she is. And he actually had nightclubs and entertainment places. He was involved in some finance things, and Aaron Rousseau was also talking about how he was approached by the Rockefellers and how they said, come and join us and we'll take over the world, basically, is what they said. So, okay, now let's get to some more in Ukraine. There's Podolyak, the chief advisor of Volodymyr Zelensky. The guy that everybody used to get down on their knees and kiss his feet, and he was the Elvis of the geopolitical world, at least for the West. For those that that hope to take over the world themselves. The actor, kind of a clown, I guess. So anyway, Podolyak, his chief advisor, his wife came out, and she said online to Elon Musk. It was directed at Elon Musk. She said, your business is to give Starlinks and shut up. So, that's kind of this attitude of these people. And Podolyak, he's actually what you call a Nazi. Whether he calls himself one or not, he's a Nazi. He's the guy that came out and said that the Chinese and the Indians, and of course, I guess he included the Turks, are of inferior intellect, of course, compared to the Ukrainians. And that sounds kind of like, somebody who used to say, Untermenschen, Übermenschen, the master race. things like that. So you know what that was. So what is it? The mustache man, I guess Alex Christoforou calls him. So she's got that same attitude. You know, if it looks like a duck and walks like a duck and quacks like a duck, then it must be a duck, as they say. So what's the next thing going on here? The freedom of speech in the West. You know, this stuff is really, really getting out of control. You know, in Great Britain, they're going and kicking down the doors of a lot of people that say something, say vloggers, or somebody that says something online, say in a podcast or whatever. You say one thing online and say, I think some guy said that it started out, I guess, some woman was accusing him. I think he might have been talking about these, what do they call them, Blade Runners or something like that. These people that are kind of chopping down these cameras. And I believe the whole deal about that is these cameras are set up to photograph cars. When it's an older car, at least if I'm understanding this right, you know, they get your license plate number and then you've got to pay 12 pounds per day. Maybe it's when you're driving. I really don't know what that is. Maybe it's because I've heard different stories, you know, that they have cameras set up outside of London, and when you drive inside of London you have to pay a tax. It's just incredible. You know, these people are so hungry for money. They're doing anything to get money. I mean, all of these, and it's really expensive in Britain anyway. But anyway, I think these people that chop down these cameras, if I understand this correctly, that's the Blade Runners. But if you say you have sympathy for them, then they come, you know, if you're a vlogger, then they'll come and raid your house. And I guess there was one, this one person, what was his name? Oh, Fox something. It's not important, but you can find it online. But he was in London, and there was another one in Bristol, England. While crime is running rampant in the streets, they're having these policemen come and raid people's houses and searching their house, even though they've never committed a crime. You know, it has nothing to do with a crime, but I think they're saying it's something like under intent to commit a crime. And when you say that you have sympathy, I think it was some of these things was you had sympathy for these Blade Runners, these people that are you know, chopping down these poles or something with cameras that photograph cars or something that are older cars. So you know, going into London, I believe, and then I guess they were starting to put these cameras on vans, and then I guess people were somehow spraying stuff all over the camera lenses or whatever to block that view. But anyway, people are kind of ticked off, and people don't have money, you know, in a lot of countries in the West. Really, things are really and then the government wants more money, and obviously a lot of this is to be sent to Ukraine. A lot of people are really getting sick, and people are starting to get you know, highly pissed off, I guess, about having their money go to a very corrupt government, the most corrupt government possibly on planet Earth. Money disappears. Oh, and at the same time, the United States, I think I said it in my last video, who was that? John Kirby said, we have never found any indication, he didn't say evidence, but I guess what he means is evidence. And I think they're saying this in different ways, and maybe different people in the United States government. But to an effect, they're saying, we don't have any evidence, I'll use the word evidence, that Ukraine is corrupt. We see no corruption in Ukraine. You know? That's a big can of worms, and I guess you gotta go online and find out yourself, and find out, you know, all these recruiters going around and wrestling people down and sending them off to die in the front lines and all this terrible stuff. I don't know. It looks like something's going to be blowing up here pretty soon, and the masters of the universe are trying to get more and more control, you know, the World Economic Forum, everything. And this is all supposed to happen, as you know, by the year 2030. We're supposed to be, who knows? What are we supposed to be? We're supposed to be something. We're supposed to be under total control by the year 2030. What do they call that? Agenda 2030? Yes. One of them, I think it was the one in Bristol. Let's see, Bristol. This guy in Bristol, he was criticizing, I guess his crime was he criticized, ridiculed the Canadian Parliament, not the British. He ridiculed the Canadian Parliament online. So they come and raided his house. Obviously, these people are taken off the air too. Makes you wonder what would happen if he ridiculed the British government. Wow. I'm sure people do, but it's kind of makes you wonder, well, what justifies them coming and kicking down your door? You know, because there's certainly people criticizing the government of Britain in Britain. But I don't know, maybe it's when you criticize Nazis, then they don't like that. Then they come after you. What's this trend going here? What's this trend? So you just don't know what. You don't know what they're coming, when they're coming to get you, and what they're coming to get you for, necessarily. And then I'd also like to know who these agents are that attacked these people from the Alternative for Deutschland party leaders. That's incredible. Who are these agents? Who employed them? You know, it's not just something coming out of the blue. It looks like somebody is really afraid, because the Alternative for Deutschland has been getting very, very strong, you know. And you know what the odd thing is? Because even when I was living in Germany, they were calling them far right, and they're trying to make people believe that these are radical Nazi types people. But yet the Alternative for Deutschland is against funding the Nazis, and the ones that are not supposed to be Nazis are in favor of funding the Nazis. So what does that tell you? What does that tell you? Talking about what is this? I don't know. It's like, I don't know it's just very confusing. Very confusing. It's Orwellian, I guess. The Nazis are not the Nazis, and the ones that are not the Nazis are the Nazis. I don't know. Is that what we're going to say? But anyway, again, I should say subscribe if you haven't subscribed. And also, we should be getting this project going pretty soon. I guess there's things going on today as far as getting a studio set up, and it's going to be in October. It looks like that. And the benefactor, the man that's doing all this, the brains behind the operations, whatever you want to say, and the guy funding this all, the guy that's putting this all together, and this guy, I tell you what, he really knows what's going on all over about everything. You can't come up with any news that he doesn't already know about. Anyway, he said it would be in October, and I was thinking, you can't get it going that fast. I don't know. I didn't think you can get anything going that fast. I was in the Caribbean. Nothing happens anywhere near as fast as whatever they project. Something that you think could take 1 month, it takes a year in the Caribbean. You know, everybody's moving, 10% speed of what they're supposed to be going. But anyway, it looks like he might be getting this off. It looks like he certainly will be getting this off in October, because things are already going right now. Very soon. Probably by the 15th, I would imagine, putting all that stuff together. Quite amazing, quite amazing. But anyway, subscribe. You'll hear more about that from me. Another thing. I'm very, very curious, because supposedly Gonzalo Lira, he had his trial on the 2nd of October, and I haven't heard anything about that. And I'm going to have to look a little bit more online, since I'll have a little bit more time in the next 2 days, to look online to find out if there's any news about that. I don't know if they postponed it, how things go. And obviously the United States government is not moving, they're not budging a finger to try to get Gonzalo Lira out of jail there. Prison, whatever you might want to call it. So that's about all I have to say today. And I'll be doing another video within this is Thursday. This is Thursday. And before the end of the weekend, I'll put out at least one more video. And I thank you all very much for joining me, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye for now.